Hey 5th grade travelers, I'm here in the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. It's the longest underwater tunnel in the United States, and it's used for vehicles to travel to New York City. So here's how long it is. It's 1 726,000th of a mile long. So what does that really mean? That's what we're going to explore in our lesson today.
Here is what 1 726,000th of a mile looks like when written. And here's what it actually means. The 1 ahead of the decimal point is just a whole number that we've been used to doing, so I would say 1. And then when I get to the decimal point says the word and. That's telling me there's parts that are smaller than 1, and that's everything behind the decimal point. That would be the decimal. So the 7 here is in the tenths spot, and that's showing that there's 7 tenths in the number. The second spot over from the decimal is the hundredths, and that is saying that there's 2 hundredths of a mile. And then lastly, my third slot is the thousandths spot, and that's showing that there's 6 thousandths. So when you put it all together, it's 726 thousandths. It's hard to read it because you're not used to it, but when you just look at this number, 726, that helps you, 726 thousandths. If you want to think of it this way as well, the decimal point's kind of like the turning point and the 1, but if I added a number here, it would be in the tens place. So just the same, here's the tenths. And if I would add another number, I'm kind of running out of room, that would be in the hundreds place, and right next to the 7 here is the hundredths. And if I would do another one, it would be the thousands spot, and then here's the thousandths. So it kind of works in opposite like that. Now let's look at another way to look at it. Here's a place value chart that will help you. Here it is, written out just the way I had showed you before, 1 and 726 thousandths, giving it all the place value. The next one here is how you would write it with expanded form. So let's look at that, specifically the tenths here. I have 7 in the tenths, right? And it's 1/10 that we're multiplying it by. So you're used to fractions, 1/10. The next spot is hundredth spot, so you would have 1/100th times the 2. And the thousandth spot is 1/1000th times the 6. The next spot is just showing you the value as if you were writing it like a decimal. So we have 1 7/10ths written as a decimal, and 200ths and 6 thousandths. It's really just saying 7 tenths is equal to 7 tenths. We did this in 4th grade, showing how decimals and fractions are the same. And same thing with the 2 hundredths equals 2 hundredths. Let's practice saying this number together. 2, and what does the decimal point say? And 35, so what is the place value of the 5? The 5 is in the hundredths place, so let's try it again. 2 and 35 hundredths. That's how we would say this number. So the 3 is in the 10th spot, the 5 is in the 100th spot, and now we're going to write it in standard form. Writing it in standard form is just the same as saying it out loud as a number. So here it is, 2 and 35 hundredths. Then you will also be required to put it in standard form. So we're going to put this one in standard form together. When we look at standard form, we're going to start with our ones place here. So it's 2 times 1. Then we have to put a plus sign showing that we're going to add the next place value. So I look at that, and that's the 3. So I'm going to put 3, but what am I going to be multiplying 3 by? The 3 is in the tenths place, so 1/10. Then I'm moving to the next place, which is the hundredths place, and right away, oh, I'm sorry, I did an error. This should be a plus sign. I'm going to look in the With the 5, it's the hundredths place, so it's 5 times 1/100th. We're going to do another one together like this. Pause your video right now and try to read this number for standard form. So let's see if you got it right. 3n 524 thousandths. Remember that th is what's added to the n to make it a decimal. So the thousandths, hundredths, tenths. Now we're going to write it in expanded form. So it should be easy to do the 3. 3 times 1, the ones place is times 1. And now we're going to add it to our next place, which is the tenths place. 5 times 1/10 plus 2 times, now let's think, what place value is this? What comes after tenths? That would be hundredths. 1/100th plus our 4, which is in the thousandth spot, so that would be 1/1000th. I'm running out of room myself here. So that is expanded form. The last type of problem you might see is one like this where there's a number underlined and it'll say what is the value of the underlined digit. And you've seen these with our regular place value, so it shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. So if I think about the 4 is in the hundredth spot, so the value of the 4 in the hundredth spot is 4 hundredths. You could write it like this and actually write it out. Or you could write it as a decimal form, 0 and 0.4. So that's showing that it's 0, or it's just 4 hundredths. You don't have to say any of the zeros. So you go right to the number that's there, and it's the 4, and it's in the hundredth spot, so it's 4 hundredths.